Okay, so I'm joined by Nicky Payne from Family Engagement. So tell me a little bit about your role and what you're doing.
Oh, hi Paul, thanks for having me. Well, this is a new role at MacIntyre. We're saying new, it's been around now just for over a year, but due to COVID-19 and all the things that we're experiencing personally and with work, it's now really getting some traction behind it. So the purpose of having a family engagement consultant at MacIntyre is to support staff and our families more from a strategic level around the importance of engaging together and the value that will bring, improving communication, having those open doors where families feel that they can contact, staff feel confident in making those contacts and keeping those relationships really open and fresh.
So obviously we're going through a pandemic at the moment. So what are the big concerns that you've had raised by the families that you've been dealing with?
The few that I've had and that are in my thoughts at the moment are around staying connected. How can we stay with our families, especially families that maybe don't use technology? So we are using Zoom a lot at MacIntyre, which works for so many people and is a brilliant platform, but some people are worried about even knowing how to connect onto that. So it's really thinking about how you can connect with your that works for them. So I've been working out alongside some areas just to encourage different ways, creative ways of thinking. But a big concern of our families and our staff as well is the ease down to how that impacts them. What do we do to keep our services and people we support as safe as we can, but allow these back in? So that's been something that I've been working closely. It might feel to some people that are listening to this, but I am doing a lot of work behind the scenes around, supporting staff with that. But that is, again, I sometimes feel like a bit of a broken record, is it's local level. So we have had some really good families stories coming back into MacIntyre and how that's worked. So it's just really thinking, if you are sitting here listening to this and thinking, okay, this is happening now in our area, give me a call and I will support you. We're learning from each other. I'm learning from different areas and what they're doing, what's not worked.
Obviously, situation for some families now is that day centres and activities aren't there, so they're supporting their siblings, children from home. How do you think parents are coping with that?
So, funnily enough, I had a conversation with a mum yesterday in regards to that. A person, her son is very outgoing. MacIntyre support him 5 days a week, really busy diary he has, and she's now concerned that actually this is worrying now, because she's worried that he will not he'll find things very different when he does come back. And and he will find things very different. I think everyone that's been out of work, or be it that we are supporting that person or a member of staff that are employed by MacIntyre, everyone's going to find it really difficult and alien maybe. But ways that I've supported that family are for me, or for the services, to send the invitations to join things, and again by Zoom or by just a telephone call, sending out bits and pieces in the post for that person to connect with, and just reassuring the family of why we're doing what we're doing in the way that we are. So we're not being awkward, we're not but we have a safe process to follow, and we are getting to the end of the road now, where I do think that our people that have gone back home to shield with their families and can come back in, and they will be coming back in, but it's just making sure that that's done safely. But what I suppose the key message for what I'm trying to say here is just having that time and that conversation with the mum yesterday made her feel so much better.
Because obviously we've had a situation in Milton Keynes where people who haven't lived at home for 20, 30 years have had to go back into that situation. So it's a very unnatural situation, but there's been positives and negatives.
Yeah, and I can imagine. But imagine that, imagine someone coming back into your home that you've sort of you never let go of because they're your child, but then to come back, to get used to the way you are as a family unit, and for that family unit to get used to that, it's just going to, could have caused, and I'm guessing is causing some struggles. But like you say, Paul, having the good stories as well. But yeah, keeping that line of communication open is so important.
So what long-term impact do you think the COVID pandemic is going to have on the families of the people we support?
The impact it could have on our families is, it could go two ways. It could have had a really positive impact. It could have really brought families back together and really strengthened a relationship that might not have been in the past. It sort of forced families to come back into each other's lives if people have been going home to shield. So, and that, and I'm hoping, and as we've heard some positive stories from that, people we support may now are worried about having to come back into what the new normal is. And that's a concern of mine, because I just think that would be really sad to see.
We've had situations where there's actually been safeguarding issues around people actually having to go home. I don't know if that's something you've seen across the service as a whole.
And I haven't. I've not had. That's not come into my world. But that's so true, isn't it? You don't think of it that way. People going home that aren't safe. That's one of the reasons they might have ended up in our care at MacIntyre to keep safe, and all of a sudden they've had to go back home to somewhere that isn't safe.
So obviously, looking to the future, the COVID epidemic's obviously not going to go on forever. So what plans have you got to put in place when it does finally come to an end?
Oh, well, I've got a list as long as my arm, but some things that I can share, I guess, it's actually working closely with families, really empowering our families and seeing our families as experts by experience. So a lot of things that I want to be delivering and supporting our staff teams, I want it to be a side-by-side approach with our families. So at the moment, I'm making really nice connections with families to, I don't know, one day there'll be a lovely support network across our organisation that we can tap into, and families feel really valued. So that's something I'm working alongside doing now. We're going to have a family charter, which will help our staff to get the importance and the value of working closely with our families. Remembering some families won't want to work closely with us, so it's having that real sort of that knowledge of each family that you have within your service. And also we were in, just before lockdown, we were in the midst of creating a really good family film, and that was put on hold, but that's now going to be finalised and edited, so that will be something that we can release. And some of you might have heard we're doing our family casts, and the reason they came about is we wanted to try and stay connected with our families due to lockdown, and we've released 2 episodes within COVID-19, and they will continue. That's a commitment now, and we feel they've been really accessed really positively. So podcast, film, face-to-face training, involving people we support within that as well, because that's something people know me, that's important to me, and important to us as an organisation.
Outside of MacIntyre, then, what sort of changes have you seen in your community?
In the community that I live in, we live very close to a little town, so that, things just being so quiet, things that I would go to, and shops and restaurants are closed. Recently we've seen things improving, opening up again, but then I'm going to speak honestly, that worries me. So if that worries me, that's going to worry other people, and I know that's going to worry people we support. You have kind of touched upon it, but so you do think there's going to be some big positives that come out of this whole time period? Oh, absolutely, I do. I think I'm hoping, and I do go on a lot about communication, because that's the key to my role, really. But I do think we're going to have some positives. I do think people that we support are going to have hopefully more of a voice to let us know what they like and what they don't like in regards to their daily working diaries that might have been that way for a long time, but all of a sudden, they probably think, I don't want to return to that job, I want to do this. So that kind of thing I think is great. Well, I think that's a really positive way to end our
little
Oh,
chat.
well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you for your time.
No, and and I'll just echo, if anyone needs me, just pick up the phone. My details, everyone's got my details that need them or can find them. So yeah, thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thank you for your time.